The European Union wants to send Ukraine $300 billion seized from Russia's central bank. This could fatally undermine confidence in Western financial markets, and it could accelerate the decline of the dollar and even the euro. So a couple weeks ago, Janet Yellen gave a speech urging world leaders to send $300 billion in frozen Russian central bank assets to Ukraine so they can continue their war. The European Commission is set to do just that. Now, when Russia invaded Ukraine 2 years ago, the U.S. and its European allies seized $300 billion owned by Russia's central bank. That's equivalent to about $4 trillion, adjusting for the size of the Russian economy. They did this in hopes of setting off a bank collapse in Russia, perhaps one that ends with Putin hanging on a lamppost. Ironically enough, it was our banks that collapsed instead, starting with Silicon Valley, then Signature, Silvergate, and a bevy of regionals on life support before Washington stepped in with trillions in pre-bailout. The Russian assets were overwhelmingly dollar and euro denominated, and about two-thirds were physically located in the EU, primarily in a Belgium-based deposit holder called Euroclear. Now, the EU wants to take those frozen assets and start handing them to Ukraine to buy weapons from, say, Europeans. They're starting with the profits, about $3 billion per year, but some EU members want to hand over the entire $300, and sending the profits would be a big step towards that. The background here is that the EU's latest Ukraine weapons package was blocked by Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban, who opposes the war. Meanwhile, another $60 billion from Washington is being blocked by Republicans who are demanding that we fix our border crisis first. So, denied by their own democratic institutions, Biden and his Euro minions are doing it anyway. The problem here is that seizing the assets could fatally undermine global confidence in Western markets, because it would mean the US and Europe are very dangerous places to park your money if there's any chance the West could get upset at you. That especially matters to countries who make up a huge share of international assets. So how certain can Egypt, South Africa, or Indonesia be that Washington and Brussels will never, ever turn on them? The Biden administration has already threatened sanctions on Uganda over LGBT policy, and if sanctions reach all the way to seizing everything your country owns, no country would be dumb enough to play ball. In fact, just a few months ago, the Indonesian president gave a speech saying that very thing, that they must diversify from the dollar because, quote, look what happened to Russia. So what's next? Brought to you by Unchained.com. De-dollarization has been a decades-long trend as our dysfunctional government cripples growth that has lagged the rest of the world. And it is now accelerating. So Rockstar analyst Stephen Jen estimates the dollar's share of official currency reserves went from 73% in 2001 to 55% in 2021, and then it dropped off a cliff, hitting just 47% last year. That's 8% lost in 2 years, as Jen calls it, quote, a stunning collapse. Already, exporters around the world are switching from the dollar to other currencies, so Gulf nations are selling natural gas in Chinese yuan, and projections are for China's share of trade to triple in the next 10 years. Others, including central banks, are pawning their dollars for gold and real assets. The dollar is currently held up only by 15 rate hikes from the Fed and global turmoil that's fueling a temporary flight to safety. If Biden's European minions ran through this seizure, and if Janet Yellen goes along as she's already said she would, it could fatally wound both the dollar and its junior partner, the euro. So if you own gold or Bitcoin, that's great news, and it is terrible news if you own anything else denominated in dollars and euro. Okay, we'll be watching. See you next time.